Hello, welcome to TrueHoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I am great. How are you?
I am good. Just a little bit of housekeeping for all of our TrueHoop listeners. David and I will be away next week, so there will be no podcasts next week. So you guys enjoy some time not hearing our dulcet tones talking about basketball. Go outside, do some other things. We'll be back though the following week, and there's a couple things we're going to be doing as we continue throughout the summer. We want to start adding listener emails. One of the great things about TrueHoop is we get to dig into the big basketball brain of Coach David Thorpe. But we're lucky. I can just text David anytime I want and ask him a question or call him, and I'll get the answer I want. You guys, you got to have a little bit of a layer to get to David. So we thought we'd do some listener emails. So if you guys want to ask questions of Coach David Thorpe about basketball, the NBA, players, training development, all of the things that he has knowledge about, send emails to TrueHoop@TrueHoop.com. That is TrueHoop @TrueHoop.com. Send your emails in there, and we will comb through them, and we'll ask them on air before shows, and you'll get some great insight into what David's thinking. And the other thing we're going to be doing this summer is, as you know, we do a lot of different type of podcasts and guests in the summertime. One of the questions that we have here at TrueHoop is, what does the future of the NBA look like? As the league is up for its next big broadcast media rights deal, that's probably going to be the last one that looks the way it does, right? Where ESPN and ABC and Turner is where we get everything. I think we're going to definitely be moving more towards streaming. And then also we have to look at the demographics of our fan base is changing, right? People in David's and my age range who watched the league our whole lives, we're aging up and out, right? Like younger kids, like David's son, they don't consume the NBA the way we did when we were their age. It's just different, right? So what does that all mean for the future of the game? How does that all look? We're going to have a bunch of special guests on talking about the future of the game in all its entirety. So you guys stay on the lookout for that this summer when David and I are back. All right, David. Something interesting happened on Twitter because, Twitter is always an interesting place.
Less interesting than it used to be.
Yes, than it used to be. Kevin Durant was on Twitter, as he often is, engaging with fans. And someone asked about, the most important aspect of the game. And Kevin was like, at the end of the day, you got to get buckets, right? Essentially, I'm paraphrasing. And then a bunch of people jumped in the comments. Oh, so Kevin, when the Suns lose in the second round, blah, blah, it's because you guys can't play defense, this, that, and the third, and getting a whole back and forth. And Durant was like, I'm not saying defense isn't important. It's very important, but you got to be able to score. And it turned into this thing with a whole segment on First Take. Kendrick Perkins says, KD got clowned. Everyone knows defense wins championships. And it made me think of, a common refrain that everyone who's played any kind of sport that involves scoring and a ball knows. Right? Again, a coach has probably said it to you once in your life. Offense sells tickets, or offense is for fans. Defense wins championships. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that a billion times. But I'm like, is that actually true? So I just did a little quick top line research just to see if that was true. Before I get into what I found, David, when you hear offense sells tickets, defense wins championships, what do you think as a coach?
I mean, I just ignore it. Yeah, most of these sayings are spoken by people who don't know the fuck they're talking about anyway. The idea is to win more possessions on both ends. There's lots to discuss in that endeavor, but that's what we're talking about here. And so it's a sliding scale. If I can get more buckets, my defense doesn't have to be quite as sharp. If I really am struggling to score, man, I better play some great defense. The idea is to outscore the other guys by 1 point by the last second. That's it.
That is the name of the game. How do I end up at the final score where I have more points than they do? No matter how I do it, that's the name of the game. So I did a quick little research figuring out, all right, let me look at the last 10 years of champions and just see what were their numbers like offensively and defensively, right? So where did they rank in the regular season on offense and defense? And I want to tell you guys it was so super fascinating, but it came down to what I thought. So starting with the San Antonio Spurs in 2014 and ending with the current champion, the Denver Nuggets. These are the regular season adjusted offensive rating of those 10 champions. 7th, 2nd, 3rd, 1st, 4th, 5th, 10th, 6th, 17th, and 5th. Those were their adjusted offensive ratings. Same teams. Here are their regular season rankings and adjusted defensive rating. 4th, 1st, 10th, 2nd, 11th, 6th, 3rd, 10th, 2nd, 18th. Now, if you throw out the 2022 champion Warriors 17th ranked offense as an outlier, as one of the outliers, and that's where they ranked in the regular season, but in that playoff run, their offense was dramatically better than that. And if you throw out the current champion Nuggets 18th ranked defense, and in this past playoffs, they were much better than that, right? What you generally find is that to win a championship, you basically got to be top 10 in offense and defense. And if you are top 5 in both, you're almost assured of getting to at least the finals. Now, whether you win or not, a lot of things have to work out right for you there, but those are what the numbers tell us.
Yeah, those are good teams. Those are balanced teams. The Kings this year will be interesting in that they had the best offense, I think, last season.
Correct.
And they could be better this season offensively. And so what does that mean? Are they going to be inspired by what they saw Denver do with an amazing offense and a pretty average defense in the regular season? Yeah, probably. I don't think there's any one way to look at it. The idea is to try to win as many possessions as you can, and that includes both ends of the court. So if you're not winning as many possessions on one end, you better win a lot more on the other, or you're not going to win the game. Pretty clear on that. And if I'm building a team, that's what I'm looking to do. That doesn't mean you can't lean into something when you've got, like, for example, in Sacramento, an exquisite passer in Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, a dynamic offensive player who can get better, by the way. Sabonis probably won't. Fox can still get another level up. He's young. I get leaning into more offensive guys. I also get that, God, if De'Aaron Fox starts playing better defense in the perimeter, then Sabonis's lack of ability to protect the rim won't be as pronounced. Yeah, mitigate a little bit. And so this is the game, and this is the strategic end is to look at it from that perspective.
What I liked also what you said, David, was versatility. That's essentially what the Nuggets were. If you watched their playoff run, and guys, the Nuggets in the entire playoffs lost 4 games. This is one of the great playoff runs we've seen, right? They lost 2 to Phoenix, 1 to Minnesota, and 1 to the Heat. And if you watch all the ways they played, they, in the finals especially, they won games playing the Heat style of ball, right? If you are flexible and versatile offensively and defensively, that allows you to be, as David said, you can win possessions on both ends of the floor. I mean, this is what I assume Masai is thinking when he grabs every 6'9" wing player available, right? That just gives me as much versatility as I possibly can. Now, that's up to coaching and development and everybody else to get them to do all the things they have to do, which hasn't happened in Toronto, but that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Coaching is a big factor. We have to look at the regular season too. Denver, for example, played more guys than they did in the postseason. They really tightened their rotation. I'm a big believer in the opposite. Teams that are willing to play more guys. In fact, Christian Brown played a pretty prominent role in some of their games.
Absolutely.
And had not been playing in the postseason in the rotation, generally speaking. There's lots of ways to do it. It comes down to, like I've been saying, winning possessions. And you got to find ways to win possessions. And you can do it with more guys. You can do it with less guys. You can do it with better offense and less defense and vice versa. The team that are well-balanced are more likely to be able to survive any one bad performance on either end. For example, maybe my defense is sharp as hell, but they just keep making contested threes. If they beat us, that's a win. That goes in the win column, and they only need 4 of those.
Right.
And I just wasted a good defensive effort because they couldn't miss. So if I can keep doing that on offense, well, it doesn't matter what they do defensively. I can keep making shots. Right? So we have to look at all these kinds of things. But overall, and I'm not upset with you for bringing this up. Of course, I swear to you, Jarod, you won't believe me, but I swear to you, never once did I think of Kendrick Perkins. In fact, I never have thought about him as it relates to what I want to talk on a podcast today, any day. But I was thinking about this exact subject. I don't even know why exactly I was. Something else jogged my mind. Yeah. I was talking to Henry about this morning that I'm like, oh my God, Jarod really nailed a topic I wanted to talk about, but for a very different reason. For our people listening, who cares what Kendrick Perkins says?
Correct.
I'm nothing against him. He's allowed his opinion. I'm all for it. But I don't think he thinks about the game the way real analysts think about the game. That's his choice. Kevin Durant is a player. And as speaking with a little bit of experience on this, players have very different perspectives. I don't much care what he has to say. Now, you get him in a room with us, oh my God, are we going to open up a trigonometry experiment? Holy cow, could we prod him into going to places that players wouldn't normally go on their own. The same could be said for many of us. I don't know that I'm all that interested to talk about basketball, but having someone like you get me thinking about stuff, asking me questions, sending me homework in a sense, then maybe I sound mildly interesting. Durant on his own on Twitter, it's not the same thing. Right. And so we just have to we're trying at TrueHoop to come up with smart conversations and think about big picture things. And I don't think that's what TV is doing.
No. I mean,
unfortunately,
the shows that Perkins on and these guys, their job is to go viral on social media. Like that's the goal. And the way you go viral on social media is saying something outlandish that's going to get a fan base riled up. Like that's the math.
Which might be why ESPN got rid of Jeff Van Gundy. He was just milquetoast. And if they replace him with JJ Redick, I think he'll be a little more ballsy.
Oh yeah, for sure. JJ will definitely say things, and JJ's also much closer to having just left the NBA only a couple of years ago, right? So it's going to be a little bit of a fresher take when he's saying things. No, I think it's all interesting, but I love that you wanted to talk about this because it made me think too about cross-sport analogy here. The Patriots, the New England Patriots, in their heyday with Belichick and Brady, and how they would game plan week to week and for the Super Bowl, and the reason why they were so hard to beat all those years is because there wasn't, so to speak, one system to take away from them, right? It's like, oh, we can morph an amoeba into a bunch of different things. Oh, you want us to play this way because this is what you guys do? All right, we can do that too, right? And it's the players they have in the versatility, which is what you talked about. And that's the piece in basketball. When you lean heavily maybe into one thing because you're very good at it, but it can get taken away from you, right? If that's the only thing you have to rely on, and we know it's coming, and you don't have much other versatility to go to, well, it makes it easier to defend you. I'm not suggesting that defending isolation players who are the best in the world is easy, but if that is all they do, we kind of know we got the answers to the test on this one.
Well, I'll say something else too. There are times I had a Hall of Fame high school basketball coach in our Florida Hall of Fame say to me once, he's probably maybe 10, 12 years older than me. This was years ago. He said, I wish I had the confidence you do in when you describe the game. And I think he meant as a compliment, but I told him, I hope I don't come across as being arrogant. I'm only confident of the stuff that I'm confident in. I don't fake the other stuff. So as an example of what I mean, and you'll see where I'm going on this in a second, I had a great conversation yesterday with I think a potential Hall of Fame, future Hall of Famer named Marc Gasol. Mark owns a team in Spain. And he is recruiting. This is why I think we should get rid of the draft. He's recruiting a player that I have some involvement with. And so he called me to sell me on what they can offer beyond money. I'm not an agent, so I don't keep the money. The agent can figure that out. But there's other things that are valuable. And in that conversation, they know they want my player, and I think we got that deal done. But he told me he's looking for a shooters. And I said, I've got, I think the Steph Curry of Europe in my gym as we speak. In fact, as soon as we're done here, that's exactly where I'm going. My assistant will already get him started. He is 6'3", and he just is an incredible shooter. He's 23 years old. I think he's going to be one of the best shooters in Europe anyway of the next 10 years of his career. He's amazing. And I don't know if he's good enough to play in the ACB because he's not played in a league like that before. And I don't know about his defense. He's not a great athlete. He's not powerful. He's young. And Mark asked me, is he good enough to play for us? And I had to tell him, I don't know. And this is what bothers me. I don't watch any of this TV stuff for this reason. I don't think you're ever going to hear, I don't know, because that's not sexy.
Yeah.
And I just, this is, Marc Gasol owns a team. He's trying to build a winner. The last thing I want to do is give him a player that I know can really shoot, but won't help him win games because I don't know enough yet. Yeah. I just started helping him a month ago. He's been here a month. And so there's a lot I don't know, but there's a lot that I do know because I'm in a gym. I'll be in a gym this summer with 6 NBA players at least working on their game. Not to mention watching some 5-on-5, whatever, which I'll do. I'll be in LA some in August and studying some guys. I watch film every morning. Mm-hmm. Do you really think Kendrick Perkins is studying the game? No. Is he getting on the court trying to come up with things? I listened to Brian Scalabrine talk recently. He's working with Cooper Flagg, the consensus top player in the class of 2024, plays at Montverde. Pretty amazing guy to watch. I talked to a couple college coaches who were blown away with him. I don't know if it means – I talked to an NBA agent too, very impressed with him. I don't know if it means he'll be a great NBA player. I've not watched him play a game yet. But I think it helps Brian talk about the NBA when he's on the court with one of the best, 17-year-olds, probably the best 17-year-old in the country, because it forces us to think. We're helping a player play. Mm-hmm. We're studying the game at the NBA level to teach it to these players. And then we're watching these games to compare it to how well we're doing with this guy. It forces us to think the game more. So for our listeners, I don't know that I'm really all that helpful to you. I'm trying to understand the game as best I can. I'm watching clips. I'm talking to smart people all the time, and I'm thinking about stuff. And here's another example. Tyrese Halliburton, I've never met. I've never been on the court with him. I don't even know. Oh, I guess I've been in a game. I've been at a game where he's played it in person, but I've never been close to him. But he taught me a lot this summer. He taught me some things on what he can do with the ball that I am working on with some of my players, to include this guy from Europe, as well as some NBA guys. And there's some NBA guys I have that aren't ready for what Tyrese can do. This happens to me all the time. I'm learning all the time. And yet, I asked a player, a 20-year-old, very talented 20-year-old NBA player, I texted him the other day, what do you think I helped you most with your first season? And he wrote back, screening and rebounding. And there were very specific fundamental things he was doing poorly. So it's great to have all these step-back threes we'll talk about later, I think, what they're doing this summer. But like football is all about blocking and tackling. Well, basketball is a lot about screening and rebounding. It's a very basic game. People don't talk about that much, but it's very, very important. So someone like me who's teaching the game, we're hyper aware of that. I'll watch a game and I'll see how badly they're setting screens, and I'll right away realize, okay, there's a very low ceiling for this team because they're not executing. So they're relying purely on talent. And in the postseason, when you start diving into one team only, which Denver did an exquisite job of in the postseason compared to the regular season, your lack of execution will come back to hurt you tremendously in some cases. And I just don't think guys like Kendrick, maybe I'm wrong. Kendrick has improved to me, the little things I have watched and the much that I've heard, that he's studying the game that way. If he did, I'm sure he would know a ton. Yeah. I just don't know that they're doing that. I think instead they want to fight and argue about stupid shit.
Yeah, because again, that's something that goes viral, and that's the quote unquote sexy part of the game, right? But I think you kind of nailed it on the head, and it's something you do when you talked about, especially with young players, right? You're teaching them how they can stay on the floor, and how you stay on the floor is by helping.
How to get on the floor first.
Yeah, right. Yeah. How do you get on the floor first?
Yeah.
And then get on. How do you stay? And it's by helping your team win possessions. That may involve scoring, maybe, but if you're
typically not
right, it's got to involve a million other things like screening, rebound, all the defending, all the other things that no one cares to talk about. Like not no one at that Twitter or whatever level talks about. It's all about, you need James Harden to score 45 tonight and like all that stuff. And it's like, I mean, maybe you do, but maybe if Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris do these other things, he doesn't need to score 45 points, right? Like it's just, there's more to the game than just what our eyes take us to. And I think it's a great place for us to go right into this, which is it's summertime, right? So what's happening now is what I like to call player mixtape season. All over Instagram and Twitter, you're going to see all these videos of people working on their hezzy pull-up, cross, this, that, and the third. You're going to see all the LA runs, and all your favorite NBA hoopers going to be playing together. And you're like, oh, so-and-so looks so good. I mean, with their shirts off, all chiseled, looking great. And I know David's like, who the fuck cares about any of that shit? Right? Like, what is your plan this summer? What are you working on? Have you made any improvements? And we will see. So I thought it'd be great to talk to David specifically about plans players should have now that summer league's over for the young guys, and for vets, they're probably back into their routine now of working on their games. What does that look like for them, and how do you, because you work with all different kinds of players, young guys and vet all NBA guys, what do those plans for those players look like in the summer?
First, to address this, the runs and everything, the 5 and 5. There are teams. In fact, there's another team now that I wasn't aware of last year is meeting in LA for I think a week. I just got the players' calendar the other day. I think it's 5 days. The idea of building continuity, community isn't unique to the NBA. Obviously, last year the Raptors did that. How'd that work out for them? I'm not at all saying it's a bad idea. It's not. Right. It's a great idea. Right. It doesn't mean you're going to have a successful season.
Unless you have a plan.
Right. And even if you have a plan, shit can happen too. But I still think it's a good idea to try to get everyone together. If you can get everyone together, it doesn't mean it's going to work. The guy that ran those things, Nick Nurse, he's in Philadelphia now.
Correct.
You know, but he was in LA last year at this time, pretty much in August, I think it was. So maybe it was July. So the players that just got done with Summer League, I advise them to get away from basketball as much as they can for the rest of the month. They've been in some cases they were rookies who have been working since May 1st, give or take, on their games in a very high intense way. Lots of workouts and pro days and combines and whatever. I tell them the same thing. If you want to get in the gym and get some shots up, you want to get in the gym and get some little handle in, you want to get into strength, get some strength workout in, some mild conditioning, you can. You don't have to do it until the last few days of July. Listen to your body. If you're dying to get back in there and your body feels okay, go ahead. Don't do it too hard. It's a long season. Some of these guys will be playing for teams that hope to play until June. Mm-hmm. And so you want to be Christian Brown if you're a rookie. Mm-hmm. You want to have the energy, and you won't if you tap yourself out by not stopping. I had a player call me from overseas who just left Summer League, flew overseas, and it was 1:40 in the morning his time, and he said, like, is it really okay that I'm not going to do anything for a few days while I'm here? He was there watching a basketball tournament. He's just not playing in it. And I said, yeah, but he's obsessed. These guys are obsessed with training. You need some time off. This guy was a draft pick, so he's been working hard. Players that didn't play in Summer League, like especially the veterans, they need to be doing some work in July. They should have already long been working. And I like to build out a calendar where you're 3 weeks on, 1 week off, give or take. And so August needs to be kind of the same thing. Most of these guys I've seen a lot of these players' calendars. They got to be back at camp by like September 5th, day after Labor Day. Very common. Some teams will bring them in August for like little workshops, maybe for the younger core. Some of them might ask for everyone to come. Some will do it in LA. Some will do it in their own cities. They're not going to be too intense in August, but these players need to be working intensely. And I'm a big believer in step into camp on September 5th. Your goal should be to be in the best shape on the team without necessarily being in midseason shape. You still want to be able to trend up a little bit. You don't want to kill yourself, but fitness is everything. So August is a ramp up so that last week of August before you take a couple of days off for the holiday, you have to commute to wherever you're going. Typically, they're not living in the same city. You want to ramp it up because you'll rest those few days and let that last week be your most intense week. And take up the length of your workout, but also the intensity of it. But the separate part of fitness is what are you working on? And this is where you start really fine-tuning. How's your shot looking? Are you going to be able to shoot the three this year? If not, you almost don't have to work on your three anymore. This is not most guys. Most guys are shooting threes. But like Kevon Looney, I don't know if he's shooting any threes. I don't work with Kevon Looney. But he doesn't shoot threes. So do some other stuff. I'm a big believer in ball handling for everyone all the time because losing the ball is a gigantic problem for your team, trying to win possessions. So not only do you lose that possession when you lose the ball, they're going to get a run out, potentially. That's bad news. So we do a lot of ball handling, a lot of pivoting, believe it or not. I like a lot of movement stuff with the ball and then also mirroring it as if you're defending the ball with no one else on the court because I don't want to risk any chance for injury. So we're really trying to every action you might do, every movement I do in a game, we want to practice that a bunch. Finishing off 2 feet I'm a big believer in that because we can fake off 2 feet and we can pivot off 2 feet. We can wait. Work on deceleration finishes, which is what we're doing today in my gym. Deceleration, when you gather in deceleration, you are vulnerable. You've got to be ball strong. Hide the ball or just LeBron it, we call it. We almost like tuck it like a fullback going up the middle so they can't get to it, right? So finishing moves, adding a self-creation off the dribble or off a cut. But what if Rudy Gobert is still there and there's 2 seconds on the clock and you're moving towards the rim and you can't turn the corner because the big guy's there. So you've got to do like a half hook off the board, left hand, right hand. And then once you get your half hook, you can show half hook and then scoop underneath them. There's lots of cool little things you can do. I'm a big believer in weaponizing second box. So we do that. We work on stops and starts a lot. We also do some racing, especially towards the end of each week, a lot more racing, a lot more jumping. We want to improve your athleticism. And it also helps get you in shape too, you know? And so you're ramping those things up. The veterans will have already been doing that in July. Normally they take May off if they didn't play in May. If they played in May and then they're done, they'll take more of June off, and they start ramping up in July. August is when you really take it up a notch with some built-in. Some guys have to go to the doctor and that kind of thing. I like to give them a 5-day calendar in the month where they can schedule all their appointments they have to do. One of my players that I help, he's got to get a new driver's license, and it's by appointment only. So his appointment is set in August. So perfect. That's the week you'll take off. Doesn't mean you can't go in the gym and shoot whatever. Don't kill yourself. Let your body recover some. Watch some film. I'm a big believer in sending film. This player in Europe that I'm helping, I'm sending him Steph Curry tape. I'm sending him Halliburton tape. Just to get his mind. Maybe he'll come up with some stuff that I didn't. That's pretty common. And so that's a good time to do it. The idea is to get the training camp fired up. And the last thing I'll say is our goal is to have players think as they're flying or driving to their training camp that last day, I've never been better at basketball in my life than I am right now in terms of how I feel on the court with my skills and my fitness for the summer. And then let that matriculate into your 5-on-5, because camp won't start September 5th. Right. They just start playing pickup in their own gym. And then they start doing camp a couple weeks, whatever, after that. And we want them then at that point kind of being in mid-season shape at that point. The Miami Heat do a fitness test. Yep. So if I have a player with the Heat, we'll make sure we do the fitness tests maybe every 10 days. I don't care if he gets it day one, but before he leaves, he'll have accomplished that fitness test that they do, because we don't want anyone failing. I don't want my guys to finish first in the Heat fitness test when I have a Heat player.
No, that's incredible stuff. So if you have a player, particularly a young player, right, who, let's say last year we had Eurobasket. This year we have World Cup. How do you work that in to your training schedule, right? Because now that's like serious, intense games going all the way through end of August into early September.
Yeah, right? maybe later than that even. I forget the dates. Yeah, well, I've had that many times. Number one, I always ask young players not to play for the national team. I did that with a player for this summer. He is not playing for a senior national team. He was invited. When he and his father asked me, what should we do? I said, you just finished your rookie year. You lost your last game in college in March, late March. By April, you were starting to get back on the court. May 1st, you were training hard. You did 15 NBA workouts, combine, pro day, Zoom calls, the whole thing. You had 3 days off. You got drafted, summer league. And then you took maybe 10 days off, and then you started training for preseason, having no idea if you'd even be in the G League, even though you were a contracted player. And then you played a bunch of games in the NBA. Can you just take a summer to worry about yourself, where you have a job secured, right? You're not doing college anymore. You're in the NBA. Can you just worry about yourself this one summer? You can always play national team next year. Those that play the national team, it's very different. You've got to get ready to kill it. And so you've already been working hard. Unfortunately, they don't have any time off. Yeah. We saw Jason Tatum, I thought, really run out of steam.
August 25th to September 10th, by the way, is the date. And mind you, this is taking place in Japan, the Philippines, and Indonesia. So why does that matter?
That's a long way from
It's flights, guys. Like, I know you all think, oh, who cares? They fly. Dude, getting your body 30,000 feet above ground for 20 hours, right? Just how long it takes to fly all these places. Plus, that's just a lot for those big bodies. So they
got to come home and take, I would say, 7 to 10 days off when they're done. I don't know if they will, but that's what I would literally say. See you in 10 days.
Well, that is what Nikola Jokic did, because he played Eurobasket last summer.
I didn't know that.
And he did not play a ton in the beginning of training camp. I remember Michael Malone saying something about this. We're going to kind of let him rest a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's also hard.
That worked out good for them.
I was going to say it worked out pretty well. It's also hard for those guys, right, David? Because as you said, they're obsessed with basketball. Yeah. Like we always say, it's like, KD, put the basketball down, dude. Just go do something else for a week. Like they're like addicted to it.
I mean, if you listen, I don't know what you did this morning, but I have I have 5 to 7 minutes of free time now that I've not had since the season started. So I do the New York Times mini crossword. That takes typically less than 2 minutes. They're very simple. And then I spend 5 minutes on the spelling bee.
Oh, nice.
Well, KD want to go shoot. That's his way of relaxing.
Right.
I don't mind that. Just don't work. You can't only work. There's an intensity requirement for that, and I think that you pay a tax on that later. And again, Jason Tatum paid it 2 seasons ago in the playoffs, in the finals. If these guys playing for the national team, they just need to recharge and refresh. And again, Jokic did it, and look what he was doing. We should probably copy him.
Yeah, we also, David, know that when you play Eurobasket or the Olympics or something like that, it can have a buoy for you in that coming season. We saw it with Lauri Markkanen, who we always thought was very good, but now we're like, oh no, Lauri can be the number one guy on a team. He showed that he was excellent for Utah this year. We saw Wagner in Orlando at a great Eurobasket, also like catapulted that into the. So it can also be used as a springboard into, oh wait, this guy can do more than we thought.
For sure, that's anything you got without opportunity. You don't really always know. There's a lot of players not drafted in the lottery that probably could do a lot more and never get the chance. And so we wrote an article about this the other day about Summer League. There's just a lot of players don't have that luxury. They don't have the green light. So I always say to them, be Kevon Looney. Mm-hmm. Set screens, rebound, be a great teammate, share the ball, get on the court. And then maybe you can earn the privilege of taking bad shots sometimes, like good scorers do, And before I forget, I do want to say something about Summer League. I meant to tell you this ahead of time. In the article we wrote yesterday, I was talking about how I don't evaluate how well someone shoots the ball.
Right.
I don't judge it because Summer League. They're just not getting their routine. And we put in there about no practice courts, and we didn't explain it well. It's my fault, 100% my fault. The reality is, if the guys want to go get extra shots, they can. The Vegas Summer League operators, who I already said and wrote, they run an incredible event like Super Bowl, Summer League. Like these are high-level operating events, as someone who used to be in the business. But it's not easy to go get your extra shots up compared to their whole life as a professional player. There's nothing that people can do about it. It's the reality of the business. They've got to go places to get shots up, finding the assistant coaches that are available. There's lots of other things going on, and that's why I don't judge it. But I don't want anyone to think that the people who run the Vegas Summer League have failed. They are spectacular. The league itself, meaning the teams, can do a better job, I think, how they run and operate their teams. And just what we're talking about here, players that I think can maybe do more than what they've been allowed to do as young players. I aren't getting that chance. And then conversely, Jaden Hardy, Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, to name three, they were acting like they were Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. Sorry, and I wrote about this. That is not easy to stomach. I'll leave this point on Summer League with this. I wish we'd empower Summer League coaches to bench players for taking fucking terrible shots. No. The same shots that they would get benched for their regular season coach.
Right.
We need to do the same thing, get them to play the right way, and the quality of the games will get better.
Yeah, we take a look on TrueHoop.com, guys, and you'll see the article David's referencing. I want to take a quick break, and we come back. Yeah. Just a couple of players I want to talk about with Summer League, and then we'll get into something going forward. All right, David, just to wrap up Summer League, there are two players that you wrote about specifically. I mean, you wrote about a number of players, actually a ton of players, all in your Summer League posts. But two guys I wanted to talk about quickly, Jabari Smith Jr., who you were high on him before. And you were like, I don't care what last year. You cannot blame him for the Rockets' shitty season last year because the Rockets have a lot of problems. That Jabari Smith Jr. ain't number one on that list. But you think he has a chance to be a real star.
Yeah, I love him. I loved him at Auburn. I had him ranked number one before it. I thought he really competed on defense, which you don't always see. And his shooting ability at that size is very exciting. He's getting knocked by people because he's not, let's say, as explosive off the dribble as Paolo, and I understand that. But he shoots way better. He didn't last year, but I think he's going to. He only had 2 games. Paolo didn't play. He's playing for the national team. I think Jabari is going to be a future national team player. He's going to be one of those rare guys that can be a rim protector and a high-level scorer. I think that as Houston builds out their team, they should be paying a lot of attention to him, give him a lot of oxygen, let him fail, and let him learn. I'm very high on him.
like that. And a player we talked about earlier in the week, want to again put a bow on him. Talking about getting opportunities. You'd mentioned that there's some of the bravado stuff you want to like take away and tamper out, but with opportunity and oxygen, maybe he can be something. Emoni Bates, the Cleveland Cavaliers did win the NBA Summer League championship for whatever that's worth. But there were some things that he showed you that you were like, okay, this guy could be the Cavaliers starting three as soon as the end of the season, maybe, if all things go right for him.
Well, if they're still constructed the same, where they've got Jarod Allen and Mobley inside, those are two non-shooters. And so I think it's really hard to win in the postseason with only two shooters. Yep. Having a third would help. Emoni shot well in Vegas. Doesn't mean he'll continue to shoot well. In fact, I would argue that he probably won't. The reason being, I think players struggle to shoot when they're struggling everywhere else. They kind of get dragged down, and this league is much harder than Vegas Summer League. But Emoni has got talent. He was number one in his class as a young player for a reason. He played with a ton of energy. He had an edge about him. My only negative about him really was he had too much of an edge sometimes. I tell my players, I don't even like it when they hold their three in the air when they make a three. You won't see many David Thorpe guys do that. They do it on occasion, and I have to allow them to be themselves and show their personality. But I'm always of the school of, you make a shot, guard somebody, please. Like, the game's going on. That's all I care about. I'm not playing for the fans, whatever. If you make a big-time play and one and get fouled, look at the fans and inspire them. That's part of the game, or your teammates. Mm-hmm. Dean Smith had you point to the guy who threw you the ball. Mm-hmm. So when you score, I don't make it about me. Make it about we, and point to your teammate. So my players always would do that when I was a high school coach even. So so that being part of Emoni was a little bit acting out when he made good plays, which he did a good amount. Mm-hmm. But I also think it's because of what he's gone through. Mm-hmm. And so I allow for that he is convincing himself, I can do this. I know I had a bad run at Michigan State, I think, and then Eastern Michigan, mm-hmm. which is not producing a lot of guys.
To Michigan State, went to Memphis with Penny.
Memphis, that's right.
And then to Eastern Michigan.
Right. So I'm going to give him a pass for the few things he acted out a little bit, nothing bad. But yeah, he had a huge chip in the overtime game against Brooklyn in the Final Four. They played a 7. They did that rule. He played a 7 of 2s and 3s in overtime. And he had the tip in to go up 2. A big advantage in playing a 7. And then he had they ran a nice play for him to get a dunk in overtime too, to get points 5 and I think points 4 and 5 maybe. But no, he's got a shot. So Isaac Okoro shot better last year. They didn't trust him in the postseason. They're clearly trying to solve some problems now. If they trade Jarod Allen, which I think I 50-50 at best, right. At worst, I think it's more likely to trade him. I would guess maybe Evan plays the 5. Then I don't know, because now if you bring in a 4 or 5 that can shoot, you have less of a need for that at the 3. Right. But still, he could be in the rotation. They're going to be a playoff team if he continues to play with energy and doesn't let his failures, which are coming, affect his confidence. Just stay with it, stay the course, be like Christian Brown, and we could see him in the postseason, which would be amazing story.
Find ways to help the Cavaliers win possessions, right? In whatever way that is.
Yeah.
No, that would be a great story. All right, David. There are, as we sort of close out here our episode, so many teams had interesting off seasons, whether it be trades, free agents, whatever, the draft, etc. And then now it's all about projecting what they're going to be next season, which, is always, as we always say here, it's a crapshoot because 9 million things can happen between now and the beginning of the season, now in the midpoint, now in the end, right? Injuries for sure, which we don't know when that's going to happen, a potential trade, what have you. But I thought there were a couple teams we could look at, and we'll do this throughout the season before we'll probably hit probably all 30 teams, maybe not all 30, but almost all of them that are interesting. And then what do we think is going to happen to them next season in terms of where they finish? So I want to start in the East with the Boston Celtics, who, let's be honest, had a disappointing postseason run, right? You were the number 1 seed. You're down 0-3 to the Heat. You did the whole all right, we tied it, we come back, but then you end up getting blown out in Game 7. For a team that went to the finals the year before, I know this is disappointing for them, but we said at the beginning of last year, David, that The Ime Udoka situation at some point I thought was going to affect them. I thought it was going to affect them early. It did not.
Me too. Yeah.
It affected them late. Point being, it affected them. Marcus Smart, who many believe the heart and soul of that team, is now on the Memphis Grizzlies. They still have a Jaylen Brown situation. I'm not going to say problem, but a situation in that he is due his extension, and that has not happened yet. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying, there might be some feelings somewhere going on there. That's a team for me. I'm not sure where they're going to finish. Let's put it like this. Number one, I don't think that happens till next year. I think they might be in some trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll get his deal. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. I think more of his feelings might be connected to potentially any issues with Tatum when we thought Tatum approved his being traded for KD. Mm-hmm. That, I think, can have some lasting effect. I have no sympathy for players when they get their contract, like DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
You got paid.
Yeah.
Ball out. You got paid. They've traded some good players. Grant Williams is good. Marcus Smart's good. Yeah. Porzingis is interesting.
That is interesting. Yep.
He's interesting. He doesn't have a lot of playoff experience. I don't know if that matters. Maybe it does. We don't know. Missoula now has a whole offseason to get acclimated. He should be better in year 2. Brad Stevens still in charge. I think they're going to end up being very good. Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't mean they'll win the East. I don't disagree with your point, although I probably favor him to win. Yeah. I think if Porzingis can do what he did last year in Washington, he's a very interesting piece. And he can be a rim protector. They already have some anyway. Horford is a little less reliant on him, which is good.
Yeah.
Brogdon is a big key. Derek White starts great.
Mm-hmm.
Brogdon has to be healthy, and that's an issue. So they're a little suspect that way. But I think if you look at their elasticity, right, which is the range, they could be NBA champions. Okay. They could be second-round exit guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, that's fair. And yeah, the depending on Horford thing that concerned me. I am worried about that because he's getting older. But if Porzingis is healthy and can do what he did, I think you're, like, to your point, you're okay. And then look, as much as I said I'm worried about them, you have Tatum and Brown on most nights. That's going to be better than what most people run at you, right? So
pretty much every night, right? In terms of duos,
right? So you should be fine.
Yeah.
To me, it's more just about the underlying what's actually happening. Is everybody rowing to steal David?
Yeah.
Thorpe? Is everyone rowing in the same direction? I don't know.
At the same time,
right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure right now if they are.
Yeah.
All right. The other team that was in the East I want to talk about that was interesting, still interesting, the Philadelphia 76ers. The domino, of course, to fall is still when is Daryl going to trade James Harden? We know that Daryl's fine with things being uncomfortable, and James will have to report to camp at some point, right? And then eventually, when Daryl gets the deal he wants, he will move him. Joel Embiid had some somewhat cryptic comments in the media last week saying he wants to win. It doesn't matter if it's in Philly or somewhere else. Of course, everybody seized upon that. What does that mean? With Embiid, David, you always worry about how long is he going to be able to stay healthy and produce at this level, right? With his injury history. They finished third last year. Second or third. Either them or Milwaukee, I think, split spots. That's a team I'm worried about just because I don't know what's going to happen with this Harden thing. Look, if they get back a bunch of awesome young talent, it could be great. Got a new coach and nurse. I have some feelings about Philly, and not all positive.
Yeah. First of all, I'm not thrilled. Daryl Morey should not be thrilled with how Embiid handled that. What Embiid should have said is, like anyone else, I want to win a championship. I'd love to do it in Philly. Mm-hmm. I don't control they can trade me tomorrow. I don't have a no trade clause. Mm-hmm. So I'm not looking to leave. He could just cite history. Mm-hmm. It's stupid in today's world to think that you're always going to be in one place.
Right.
As much as I want to be here today, who knows what tomorrow brings. Don't make it a story, but he made it a story. Now, he may not be thinking much about it, and we'll realize, I probably shouldn't put it that way, but he's a smart guy. I think he knew what he was doing. So I think the writing's on the wall. I think Harden's going to be traded. And I don't trust Nick Nurse anymore. I thought he was great. I have my real doubts. Not that he can't figure it out,
right?
But that the ground in Philly is a little shaky. And I don't think he's an answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a guy that's going to galvanize. Ime Udoka is.
Yeah.
He did a good job in Boston when he came in. And so, yeah, I think that they're like, if I'm not a betting man, but I wouldn't bet on them to win a championship right now.
And just to correct myself, Milwaukee was the 1 seed. Boston finished 1 game behind 2. Philly was 3.
Right.
Still, do I think Boston and Philly are top 3 next year? Maybe, but Philly, I'm definitely.
I would say Boston, yes. Philly, probably not.
Yeah, not feeling great about Philly right now. All right, moving to the Western Conference. Matt Ishbia, new owner syndrome. The Suns gobbled up every possible free agent at the veteran minimum they could. So they have a team full of bright names that everybody knows, of course, led by the Bradley Beal acquisition that they made this summer, with, of course, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. They were, let's see where they finished last year. I want to say 4th. Yeah, they finished 4th last year. Look, health is their thing. We talk about it all the time. That's the biggest thing. If they're healthy, that team should win 50 plus games. If they're not, it'll be a little bit of a challenge. Although I will say I think they addressed their depth issue a little bit better. They have more guys, I think, at least with playoff experience. So I expect this team to, for sure, finish somewhere inside the top 4 next year.
Yeah, so do I. They have a new coach.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And I think that'll be good. They have a point guard problem.
They do.
That's solvable. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal know how to play. They could be primary ball handlers, and the way they need to run their offense, they'll be just fine with considering the kind of elite scoring talent they have. My guess is they'll find a point guard to come in, maybe as a backup, or in some case to play with some of those stars if they feel like they need to not make Devin and Bradley have to be the point.
Mm-hmm.
If they're willing to defend and can kind of mesh, they'll be a top 3 team. Yeah,
they're good enough for sure. The other team, last team in the West, the Warriors. The acquisition of Chris Paul, the trade, of course, of Jordan Poole, and the core is the core. Those guys we mentioned, Kevon Looney, of course, Steph, Draymond, Clay. They're going to need Kuminga to take a step up this year. Moses Moody as well take a step up. And then I think what they get from the positions where they had Otto Porter Jr. and Nemanja Bjelica 2 years ago when they won the championship, who are the players that fill those roles this coming season? And if they're the kind of guys that can elevate and help a guy like Kuminga, et cetera, then I think they'll be, look, with the way Steph's playing again, assuming health, that's a top 4 team as well. But I don't know what the rest of those bottom 2 guys are going to be. I think there's still some question to be answered there.
Yeah, me too. I like Chris Paul. They're fine. He'll be better than Jordan Poole, who was a net negative for them last year. I'd like to see Looney shoot threes or Draymond shoot threes to add a little more potency to their offense. And Wiggins, missed a lot last year. He should be fine. I think it was his dad's health, they said.
Yep.
Bob Myers is gone. Is Steve Kerr next? Like, this could be a swan song thing. If I hate to bet against Steph Curry. Ultimately, I wouldn't. But we're going to see how much Moody and Kuminga can be counted on. They need to give him some rope, though, and learn. Those guys both should be able to provide something. They lost DiVincenzo. Mm-hmm. That matters.
That matters for sure.
They had a couple of guys in Ryan Rollins and Patrick Baldwin that looked like they might be 5-minute per half guys this year. Well, they will be, but they'll be for the Wizards because they're gone with Jordan Poole. So, but I think Chris Paul is going to help settle some things, give them some competitive fire, and create shots for. They don't have any great pick and pop guys, so that's a little bit different. But if Kerr probably is going to get smart and maybe using Clay and Wiggins with him more, and even Steph more and pick and roll stuff, pick and pop stuff, and go screen action, veer screens, that kind of thing. I think he can adjust the Cuisinart some to take advantage of Chris Paul's talents as a primary ball handler, ball screen player. I'm Steve Kerr still there. If he was out, I'd be a lot more worried. They might have one final good run in them.
So you mentioned something about Kuminga and Moody. So this is going to be the situation where they can't afford to do this year the thing they did in the past, which is jerk around their minutes, right? they're going to have to live with mistakes that they make early and just play
Yeah.
through it, because they are rotate. They have to be part of your initial 10 this season, right? Like, or your 8 or your 9.
For sure. Yeah. And they're athletes. Moody has shown some shooting ability, Kuminga some athletic energy and physicalness. They're in year 3. Like, this is the time for them. Poole had the magical year 3. It's time for them to do the same thing.
No, that's fair. Yes, I'll be very curious to see how Kerr deals with those guys, those 2 guys in particular. If they can be what the promise is, then I think they'll be cooking with gas over there. All right, guys, that is all for today. Remember the housekeeping stuff we said at the top. No shows next week. Send in your listener emails to TrueHoop@TrueHoop.com. Ask David Thorpe some basketball questions, and we will answer them on air. And we'll get into that future of the NBA stuff when we're back. All right, everybody, take care. Enjoy yourselves.